Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. I am your host, Nelson, here today on this wonderful afternoon. As you can see, the sun is shining. I apologize for being late once again. I've been late a lot recently with the streams. I've been held up in meetings recently, so I apologize for that. I'm going to try my best to be on time from here on out, but first, we're going to talk about the segments that we'll talk about and cover in this show. So the first segment is going to be on JJ Redick and his coaching potential because, according to Shams, the Lakers believe something absolutely egregious, and I'm going to go further into that, but you can obviously read the title and see exactly what the problem is here. Then in the second segment, we're going to talk about the All-NBA rookie teams that were just announced because, they're all rookies, and it's very interesting to see who got chosen for the All-NBA rookie teams and who didn't get chosen for these teams. So then in the third segment, we're going to talk about why Caitlin Clark has been struggling in these few games, why the team is not in a spot where people expected them to be in, all sorts of things like that, as well as my opinions on what needs to be improved for the team and everything else of that nature. But then in the fourth segment, we're going to do a quick conference finals preview since the game between the Celtics and the Pacers start tonight. Hopefully, the Celtics can hand the belt to the Pacers, but we'll see about that. We also have a special fifth segment towards the end of the fourth segment. I'm going to reveal it, so stay tuned for that. Before I begin, however, I'd like to remind everybody to please remember to use the link in the description to get your comments recognized, or the link displayed below the ticker on every single show segment. The link is gsmcpodcast.net. It really helps the show, makes the show much more interactive between myself and you guys. Once again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net. And with that out of the way, let's go right ahead and talk about JJ Redick and his coaching potential. So, this isn't me. I just want everyone to know this headline was not my idea whatsoever. This was the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, the hype train, it's happening again in the offseason. We see it every single time with the Lakers. They always hype up every single potential, whether it be coach, whether it be a player, whether it be, a new executive. It doesn't matter. All I know is that they always hype up new acquisitions to their organization. JJ Redick is no exception. According to Shams, this is not me, the Lakers reportedly think JJ Redick has Pat Riley-like potential. And I just cannot help but laugh, giggle, and be absolutely sick to my stomach, mad. I feel every single emotion. I'm surprised I haven't thrown up yet. Like, Pat Riley-like potential? Are you serious? The man has zero lick of coaching experience in his life, and he also has zero experience winning a championship. What on God's green earth makes you even think about this? What on earth makes you think that this is somewhat accurate? Pat Riley-like potential. Pat Riley has 9 rings on his fingers. And you're telling me that JJ Redick, a guy that hasn't even come close to winning one, has the potential of being a good coach like him, a good GM like him, or like whatever type of position they want? I mean, Pat Riley, he has a ring as a coach, he has a ring as a GM. He's just he's one of the lords of basketball, if anything. Like, the Lord of the Rings, if anything. Like, aside from, Bill Russell, that's his nickname, I believe, the Lord of the Rings, since he does lead the NBA in total championships. Or maybe it's Phil Jackson. Now that I think about it, who do we think deserves that? That's a very good question. Who do we think deserves that nickname, the Lord of the Rings? Do we think it's Bill Russell? Do we think it's Phil Jackson? Or do we think it's Pat Riley? Who deserves that title of being called the Lord of the Rings? Because when you think about it, Bill Russell has the most rings as a player. Pat Riley has the most rings, like, in, like, multiple rings in different types of positions as a GM and as a coach and so on and so forth. And then there's Phil Jackson, who has the most rings ever as a coach, as well as 2 more rings as a player. So who do we think deserves the Lord of the Rings title? But aside from that, JJ Redick as the having Pat Riley potential, I think that is just gassing him up egregiously. Like, that is just pushing the hype as far as you can push it. I mean, that is a very, very bad take, in my personal opinion. And from what I know, the Lakers have recently interviewed JJ Redick, like, for the head coaching position, as well as several other people to be considered as the head coach. But a lot of people thought that the reason why JJ Redick was a front runner is because he has a podcast with LeBron. However, LeBron and JJ Redick have not been in any kind of conversation about being the new head coach. Now, the Lakers, they interviewed Borrego and Cassell as well, Sam Cassell as well, who is, and Sam Cassell right now is the assistant head coach of the Boston Celtics, and James Borrego is the Pelicans associate coach. So all of these, and then there's obviously JJ Redick, who is not a coach but a retired NBA player that just so happens to have a podcast with LeBron James. So the Lakers officials, they also plan to meet with the Denver Nuggets assistant head coach, David Adelman, Minnesota Timberwolves assistant Mekhi Nori, and the Miami Heat assistant Chris Quinn to fill in the spot for the Lakers. Now, the franchise is infatuated with Redick's coaching potential, and this is just wrong. Like, saying that he's going to be a good coach, there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But comparing him to someone like Pat Riley is just a crime in of itself. Like, Pat Riley should not be taken lightly. Like, that's not a name that you can just throw around. I understand that Miami Heat fans, like, they're not a big fan of Pat Riley for some reason. I don't know why, but he's legendary and he should be respected. So throwing JJ Redick's name there as if he's going to even reach the potential that Pat Riley has reached is not good. That is just a very bad take, in my opinion. I mean, I can't stand it. Like, that just made me cringe incredibly hard. And I'm not saying that he is going to be a bad coach. I mean, I have no idea, like, what his potential as a coach is. I'm not saying that he's going to be, like, really bad, because from what I hear on his podcast with LeBron, he seems like he has a very big brain when it comes to these things. However, not entirely sure, how, podcast talk is going to translate to NBA coaching. I mean, like, I host a podcast. I don't think I'm going to be a pretty good head coach. I mean, I could definitely try and see how it works, but as an NBA head coach, I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to even be successful at that position, just because I know a little bit about basketball, and just because, granted, Redick also has a lot more of an advantage because he actually played in the modern NBA now, and he's obviously, if you play in the NBA, you have ridiculous basketball knowledge. I mean, you know the game like it's the back of your hand, and front of my hand, back of my hand. That's Jesus Christ. But regardless, like, we have no idea. Like, we've seen several, like, for example, Steve Nash. Steve Nash was a phenomenal basketball player. He was a fantastic point guard. He was a great shooter. He was a great passer. He was a great playmaker. He was a very, very good point guard, and not even very good. He's a Hall of Fame point guard. I need to put more respect on Steve Nash's name. But the problem with Steve Nash was his coaching. Like, he was a very, very bad coach for the Brooklyn Nets. Believe me, I know. He was a very, very bad coach for the Brooklyn Nets. And it was odd because, seeing him as a player and, like, with the high IQ that he had as a point guard in the NBA, it would seem like he would be a very good coach, especially with Mike D'Antoni being the assistant under his belt there as well. It seemed very good. It seemed like a very, very good addition. But towards the end, it didn't pan out the way that everyone thought it would. Because Nash, his rotations were terrible. His offensive scheme was also terrible. It was literally just give Kevin Durant and Kyrie the ball, get out of the way. That's not an offensive scheme. That's not how offense works now in the NBA. You have to have a little bit more than just one or two players being able to isolate, because what happens if those isolation players aren't hitting their shots? Like in Game 2, he didn't make a single adjustment for the Nets in Game 2 when they desperately needed it, and it costed them that series. They got swept. And not only that, it also costed his job. So him being a coach, completely different than him being a player. So same thing could apply with JJ Redick. And it's important to know that this is also the Lakers. I mean, the hype train around the Lakers is absolutely ridiculous. We see this every single time in the offseason. They hype up everybody. And then once reality hits them, they immediately slander the people that they brought. They're spoiled. It's annoying. They're all spoiled. They think every single asset they get is going to guarantee them a championship just because they have LeBron James. And it's bad. It's bad for the franchise. It's bad in general. It's horrible. Absolutely horrible. This take right here on the headline, horrible. But with that out of the way, we are out of time in this first segment. So now I will go ahead and go into the second segment where I talk about the All-NBA rookie teams. They were just announced, the first team and the second team. So I will be right back after this short break, so stay tuned.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown. Get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
And we are back with the second segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this second segment, we are going to be talking about the All-NBA rookie teams that were just announced. But before I begin, I'd like to remind everybody to please go ahead and hold on just a second while I pull it up. I'd like to remind everybody to please go ahead and use the link in the description to get your comments recognized, or the link displayed below the ticker on every single show segment. The link is gsmcpodcast.net. It really helps the show, makes the show much more interactive between myself and you guys. Once again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net. And with that out of the way, we can go right ahead and talk about the All-NBA rookie teams that were just announced. So I'm going to go ahead and quickly try and pull up the All-Rookie first team in the images real quick. And nope, it's not entirely working, so that's always fantastic. Hold on just 1 second while I figure out how to get this to work. All right, there we go. All right, fantastic. So this right here is the All-NBA rookie first team. I can't speak English now for some reason. Good Lord. The NBA All-Rookie first team. Jesus. Pardon me. This is the first team, and I also have the team voting results over on my phone, so that way you guys can see exactly who made the first team and who made the second team, and by how much they were selected by. So, obviously, the two unanimous ones that were going to be on the first team were Chet and Victor Wembanyama. Like, absolutely zero question about those two being on the first team. They were the most popular rookies going into the year, and they've been by far the top two rookies in their draft class. Or yeah, I guess you could not really, because Chet wasn't really in their draft class because he was drafted a year before them, but he did sit out due to injury. So I don't know if I would really call him, their draft class, but he is still a rookie. It's the same thing like with Ben Simmons, how Ben Simmons was injured and this is sort of like his first official year, but at the same time this isn't really his draft class. So I mean, I guess the right term would be those two tall centers, like egregiously tall centers. They were the favorites in their rookie class. Yeah, that sounds a little bit better. And obviously, them being the favorites since the beginning, it's going to put them as the front runners of being the rookie on the all-rookie first team. So they both had 99 first place votes, and obviously 99 people voted, therefore making this unanimous. They both made the all-rookie first team unanimously, and Victor Wembanyama won the Rookie of the Year unanimously, so it only makes sense. Brandon Miller, he was just one vote off of being he had 97 first place votes and just one second place vote. So, again, very, very close. Brandon Miller was also like in the running for Rookie of the Year, like towards the end of the season. He was in the top 3. He was actually like 3 exactly because, he wasn't going to be able to surpass Chet. Nobody was going to be able to surpass Victor Wembanyama. It was just that simple. And Jamie Jaquez Jr., he was also another favorite for the rookie teams, and like as a rookie for the Miami Heat, he was actually a very important piece for the Miami Heat in a lot of their winnings and a lot of their games that they played. He has a very solid bag for being somebody that's came out undrafted. It's very funny how the Miami Heat have so many players that come out undrafted and just immediately become a star. And let's see. So next for Golden State, it's Brandon. I'm trying to figure out how to pronounce that last name. Podziemski. There we go. I mean, forgive me if I botch it. A lot of these names are very, very difficult to pronounce. But Podziemski for Golden State. And not to mention, I don't really watch Golden State games that much, so I haven't really been able to see his... I mean, I've seen him play, and I know just how good he is. He's one of the best hustle players in the NBA, along with Josh Hart, who everyone knows Josh Hart's hustle and his rebounding prowess. I mean, I don't really have to explain that. But that was this is the all-rookie first team, and Podziemski, he ended up getting 64 first-place votes for the first team. Now, For the second team, I'm not entirely sure if they do have the second team just lower down here. Okay, so I might as well just use this image as well. So for the second team, Derek Lively from Dallas, he ended up getting 26 first place votes, but 67 second place votes. So just saying, the first place votes are worth 2 points, while the second place votes are worth 1 point. So it adds up to 119 total points, therefore putting him in the all-rookie second team. Amen Thompson on Houston, he got second. He got chosen, and he has 100 total points in the voting system. Keontae George from Utah, he also was added onto the second team, and he is the only rookie that has been able to beat Victor Wembanyama in some sort of statistical category. Now, what I mean by that is, amongst rookies, Victor Wembanyama led in points per game, total points, rebounds per game, total rebounds, steals per game, total steals, blocks per game, and total blocks as a rookie and amongst rookies. And there's only one stat that he didn't lead the league in amongst rookies, and that was assists. And Keontae George was the guard that was able to average the most assists and get the most total assists towards the end of the year. And for a majority of the entire year, he was leading the rookies in assists. That was the only stat that Victor Wembanyama couldn't capitalize on in terms of leading all rookies. And even then, he was still in the top 3. So, just goes to show you how valuable and how good Keontae is. Now, next is Cason Wallace. He received 63 second place votes and 2 first place votes. So not bad whatsoever. And then there's G.G. Jackson II, who is the youngest player in the NBA right now, and he received 33 second place votes, which isn't really bad. I mean, credit to all these rookies. They played very well. They had a very good rookie season. One thing that I am incredibly surprised about, however, is that Scoot Henderson did not get selected for a single rookie team. He did not get selected at all. Did not even get considered to be part of any of the first or second team rookies. And it's kind of ironic, and it goes to show just how much the fans really know about basketball. Because earlier in the beginning of the season, everybody was hyping up Scoot and saying, "Oh, Victor Wembanyama, he's going to be a bust, and Scoot Henderson has a very solid chance of being a better player than Victor Wembanyama." Like, it was all of this dislike and hater stuff towards Victor Wembanyama that they were literally willing to hype up somebody who's just became irrelevant. I'm sorry to say, but Scoot was one of the most overhyped prospects I've ever seen in my entire life, and he didn't do anything for the Trailblazers. If anything, they became worse when he got on the team. And obviously, I'm taking that with a grain of salt, but he wasn't any kind of impactful for the Portland Trailblazers. And the fact that people actually thought that Scoot was going to be a force that could rival Victor Wembanyama, it makes me laugh at how badly everybody wanted to see Victor fail. And I don't understand why. Because I understand, a lot of people are a little bit jealous of the fact that he's 7'4" and it makes life easier for him. But you gotta be good at that height. I mean, there's so many tall players that that weren't able to do anything with their height in the NBA. Not to mention, Scoot, seriously, we're putting him over a prospect like Victor, just to start, and it really got me upset at the beginning of the season. But that's the All-NBA rookie team, and first and second team. So with that, we are out of time for the second segment. So now I will go ahead and go into the third segment, where I shift my focus to WNBA and talk about Caitlin Clark and her struggles with the Indiana Fever. I recently went to the Liberty game against the Indiana Fever, so I will talk about that just a little bit and sort of give my thoughts on the problems that Caitlin is having, as well as the team, because there's a lot to unpack here. So I will be right back after this short break.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
And we are back with the third segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this third segment, we are going to be talking about Caitlin Clark and her recent struggles with in the WNBA and with her team, because let's face it, she's been rather, well, not she, but the team and their success has been rather underwhelming. A lot of people immediately thought, okay, Caitlin is on the team, now the team is immediately going to start winning. It's not how it works. It's not how sports works. No matter how optimistic you want to be, not everyone is going to walk into the NBA or the WNBA as a rookie and be LeBron. No one, it's not going to happen. It's the same criticism that's been thrown at for Victor Wembanyama when they talk about, oh, Victor wasn't ready and oh, the team is bad. But it's like the team is not winning, things like that. But there's a lot more to it than just, one individual player. However, I'm not going to beat around the bush and say Caitlin has played great, because she hasn't played great. And it seems a lot more difficult for her to get a bucket in this league than it is for her to get one in college. And it genuinely makes sense. I mean, you're going up against the best of the best with women athletes, and obviously, the defense is going to be a lot tougher on you than it is in college, because in college there's going to be some players that allow you to get away with certain shot attempts. In the WNBA, that is not going to happen, or even in the NBA or in any kind of big leagues, it's not going to happen. The main difference between the big leagues and the smaller leagues is that you're going against the best of the absolute best in the respective sport that you're playing in. In college, you're going up against, certain people. There's a lot of good players in college, yes, but not every single one of them is going to be drafted to either the WNBA or in the NBA, regardless of whether you're looking at it from the men's side or the women's side. Not everyone is going to be a all-pro player. Not everybody is going to be a professional athlete. So when you're going up against other professional athletes, it's like the playing field is somewhat leveled for you. So you have an even competition going into the game off rip. And even then, when the team is better than you, it's even more odds. However, the biggest problem with Caitlin is not her. I'm as crazy as it sounds, it's not her. She is not the problem. She is not the reason why. Her play is not the reason why the Fever is struggling. It's her teammates. I went to the Liberty game, and watching Caitlin Clark's teammates out there on the court, I realized why she was struggling so much. It enlightened me to a sense. Not obviously I didn't get enlightened, but it opened my eyes to why she was struggling so much in these games. Because when you're looking at, highlights, it sort of skews exactly what's been going on in the game. You actually have to watch the game to understand what's going on. And with Caitlin, when I was at that Liberty game, even though I was up in the nosebleeds, I could see with my 2 eyes what the problem was. And the problem was her teammates. Her teammates are terrible. They have no idea what they're doing on the court. It is disgusting to me. Like what I saw them do on the court was disgusting. And I'm sorry if I sound like mean or just rude or anything like that, because these are female athletes and they are very good at their sport. So all respect to them for getting drafted, but those players, they're the exact reason why the WNBA got so much hate before Caitlin got into this league. I'm sorry to say it, they are terrible. The rest of the team is bad, and I'll explain why, because just saying they're bad isn't enough. I'll explain why. So Caitlin Clark, obviously, she's a guard. Guards in today's NBA and today's WNBA, they run pick and roll offenses. Every time there's a screen set, she gets blitzed. Now, whenever you get blitzed off of a pick and roll, you have several options. Your first option is to pass to the roller as the roller slips. Or if the roller is slipping, there's going to be a weak side coming in from the corner to play help defense. That's when you make the play and pass to the corner, or pass down to the middle, and then the person down the middle passes to the corner, which gives you an open 3. The Fever weren't doing that. The Fever just were not doing that at all in the game. In fact, you know what? Let me just go ahead and go back to my face, so that way you could see my hands so when the screener is setting their pick, the 2 defenders, they're standing right, one over here and one over there. They come up and blitz the ball, and then the screener is supposed to drop down low, thus allowing Caitlin to make the pass down low. But the thing is, there's going to be somebody playing that lane because that pass is relatively easy to anticipate. And then once that lane is played, you have either 2 options. You either force the pass in there, or you pass to somebody who's wide open outside for the 3, or something of that nature. And it'll give you an open shot almost every single time, because when you're getting doubled, chances are somebody is going to be left open. And the goal is to put yourself in a position to score where there is a point that you cannot return from if you're on the defensive side. And when she was getting blitzed, the screener refused to drop down low. Instead, the screener would just run out, farther to the 3-point line, where she can't shoot from out there, by the way, and just hold the ball and try to reset the play again. And I'm out here sitting that is not going to work. You gotta drop down low and make a play for somebody else, because that's how you open up and create the space. They weren't doing that. They were just allowing them to blitz, and it was horrible. Not to mention, when she didn't have the ball, there was this other female guard on the team that I just despised. I didn't even know who it was. I didn't even know exactly who it was at the time. I just knew that I didn't like her at all. I just knew that I did not like her, and I was not a fan at all. Her name is Kelsey Mitchell. I'm sorry, no disrespect whatsoever. I'm sure she's a great player. She was bad. She's really, really not it. She's a ball hog. She, for being a guard, she hogs the ball a lot. And she takes some of the worst shots I've ever seen. And it doesn't amount to anything. And it infuriated me watching her play. Not to mention the rest of her team was blowing layups, blowing easy opportunities, taking terrible shots down the court. It was just bad offense all around. And it had nothing to do with Caitlin, because Caitlin was trying her best. The most open shot she could get on the court was a half-court bomb. That's the most she was going to get in an open shot. And she had to take it. And honestly, a couple of them went in, which was very surprising to me. But the Liberty are also a very, very good team, and they played very well in that game against the Indiana Fever. But regardless, the Fever could have still made the game competitive had they done something a little bit more simpler, like as to stopping their blitz. They just had no game plan to stop their blitz, and it didn't make any sense to me, because all you had to do was drop down low and then have one of your shooters, and then kick the ball out to one of your shooters off the screen. The screener wasn't dropping down low. Like, it was so bad to watch, and I really dislike talking like this, because it makes me seem a little bit ignorant, saying that I know more about basketball than female athletes. But the way they were playing, it was dumb. Like, I'm sorry, but they were just making things worse. It was really, really dumb, and I just did not agree with that whatsoever. They really need to adjust. They need to adjust their game plan, and they need to adjust their ability to get other players involved and other players open, because setting one screen and then flaring out, it's not going to do you any good. It just won't do you any good, with at least the way that she was doing it. Like, you can pop, obviously, but if the ball handler is getting blitzed, you cannot pop. You have to drop down low, because once you drop, that is going to force help and then leave somebody open. Like, that is the best type of shot you're going to get in that scenario. I mean, obviously, you have to lead the blitz. Like, Caitlin Clark is going to have to lead the blitz in a different direction, so that way, the shot attempt doesn't they can't rotate after they're done blitzing. But you have to be aware, and they just didn't seem to be aware of the situation whatsoever. And I'm surprised the coach didn't make any kind of adjustments either with that game plan. I understand that the women, they can't dunk, but still, you have to go down low. And it just really frustrated me that that was the reason why they lost. And I was like, no wonder why Caitlin Clark is 0-4 in the WNBA. Her team is full of dog water. Her team is bad. Her team is not good. It was bad. It was really, really bad. But that's all I have to say about the Indiana Fever and Caitlin Clark's struggles in these games. The Fever, they really, really need to turn it around offensively with their team. It's not Caitlin's fault. It's the rest of the players' fault. They're going to let her down with every single game in the balance. I can see it now. That team is pitiful. And with that, we're going to go ahead and talk and shift our focus back to the NBA, where we give a quick conference finals preview of the games. And there's only one game that's going to happen tonight, and the next game is going to happen tomorrow. So I'll give my thoughts on what I expect to happen, and who I think is going to win in the series, who I hope is going to win in the series, right after this short break. So stay tuned for that.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
And we are back with the fourth segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this fourth segment, we are going to do a quick conference finals preview, since the game is going to be happening tonight at 8 o'clock. well, the games are going to start tonight at 8 o'clock. And then there are obviously every other day there's going to be game, like, so today is going to be the Boston Celtics, and tomorrow is going to be the Dallas Mavericks, and the next day is going to be the Boston Celtics, and the next day it's going to be the Dallas Mavericks, and so on and so forth. You guys get the idea. Apart from when there's most likely going to be a break, I believe. Let me just make sure that I'm right. Nope, I lied. There is not going to be a break. It seems like every single one of these games is going to keep going back to back to back to back to back to back to back every single time. So we're going to be seeing a playoff game every single night, and it's going to be fantastic. I cannot wait. Every single one of these games is going to happen during prime time, so 8 o'clock, 8:30, something of that nature. It's going to be very, very fun. Can't wait to watch these series, and I can't wait for the Boston Celtics to hand the Pacers the belt in this series. I am not joking when I say this. I'm going to turn into the biggest Boston Celtics fan throughout the entirety of this playoff series, simply because the Pacers deserve to get eliminated immediately. They do not. What they did to my New York Knicks, what they did to those Knicks is a crime. It was murder. It was abuse. It was a crime. They do not deserve to be in that position whatsoever. Get them out of here, Boston. Please. Please. So, with all the bias aside, I personally think, with the way that the Boston Celtics have been playing in the playoffs, I wouldn't surprise if it's just a repeat of everything that we've seen. So, they win game 1, then in the next game, in game 2, they lose by a lot, and now the series is tied, but then they go ahead and win the last 3 games. So far, that's been the story for the playoffs, at least in Boston's case, every single time. Against the Miami Heat, against the Cavs, the exact same story. And with this Pacers team, I really they fit the bill. The Pacers completely fit the bill to be able to do that exact same thing, because the Pacers offense, very, very, very elite. And I would not be surprised if in game 2 they're able to bounce back and win after losing in game 1. If that does happen, again, I could totally be wrong, because so far all my takes this year in the postseason, they've been utterly wrong in every single way whatsoever. In every single way they've been wrong. So I wouldn't be surprised if I'm wrong in this take as well, but I really, really hope that I'm not. If this Celtics team is as good as the hype is around the team, I think that the Celtics are going to come out winning this series, because they have the high-powered offense as well as a very dominant defense. Drew Holiday and Derek White at the 1 and the 2. Then you have Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, who are also very good two-way players in their own right, as well as the possibility of getting Kristaps Porzingis back for the series, who's just he's ridiculously tall, and being tall just immediately makes you a very difficult defender to score on due to all the blocks that you can get, especially with the fact that he is a center in the NBA and a very not a very, how do I put this? He's not he's not underrated, I'd say, but then again, he's not that overrated either. He used to be a lot better on the Knicks, but now he's sort of subjugated to that role player, especially since, being on the Mavericks. But he's solid. I guess you could say he gets some of the respect he deserves, pretty solid. But as a team, their defense and their offense is elite, and their offense could be on par with the Pacers, especially since they shoot a lot of three-pointers. The Celtics team, they live and die by the three. But I think the biggest difference and the biggest X factor for this team against the Pacers is going to be their defense. And the Celtics, they absolutely cannot let up on the defensive side of the ball. They absolutely cannot. They have all the perimeter players that they could possibly ask for. All they have to do is put enough effort on the defense to slow the Pacers down just a little bit, and then the offense will come. They have to match their pacing, and they also have to match their pacing on the defense. They have to get back on defense as quickly as possible. And the best part about it is that this team is a team that could switch on and off the ball very, very easily. Like, these guys know how to handle switches. These guys know how to play help defense. They know how to get steals. They're an incredibly competent team defensively. And they're going to need every single ounce of defense they could possibly get, every single effort on defense they can get to stop this Pacers team. I want this Pacers team in jail. I want them strapped. I want them clamped up in this postseason. And this Celtics, they can do that. They can 100% do that against this team. And not to mention, the rotations that they have are also slightly better than the Knicks. Just slightly. Not entirely better, but just slightly. Just because, the Knicks, they play their starters for 40-some minutes, and that takes a toll on their stamina, which thus takes a toll on the energy that they have defensively. So the fact that the Pacers are able to have a pretty decent rotation means that a lot of these players are still going to have enough stamina to be able to play both offense and defense. Now that's game one. Now the next game is the Mavericks and the Timberwolves. This is one of those series where I actually have no idea which team is going to win. It could honestly go either way, but I feel like the Timberwolves have a much better chance just because of the Timberwolves and their defense. They were able to hold Jokic and Jamal Murray to a relatively inefficient shooting performance in Game 7. And they've shown that they've been able to adjust to any kind of offense that the Nuggets were throwing at them. So, with that in mind, I feel like their defense is going to be just enough to be able to weasel their way out of this series. I mean, obviously, it's going to be very, very difficult to guard Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. But Anthony Edwards, he's also a pretty competent defender, while at the same time having other competent defenders on his side, especially Rudy Gobert and Naz Reid, be able to impact the team in a certain way. Now, the only problem is Luka, and that's really the X factor, because Luka or Kyrie Irving, they could go off on any given night. And if Anthony Edwards is going to check Kyrie, because Anthony Edwards, he did say he was going to, guard Kyrie. If he's guarding Kyrie, who's going to guard Luka? And if Anthony Edwards is going to guard Luka, who's going to guard Kyrie? It's very difficult for me to really understand or to scale exactly who's going to win in this series. And I mean, Luka could he could find his shot. He hasn't even been playing very well in this postseason, or at least let me rephrase that. Luka's been playing very well in this postseason, just not as good as we're used to seeing him play. Meaning, there is a possibility that he has a lot more left in that tank, and he can find his shot, he can find his offense rolling, and if he gets rolling, there's nothing that can really stop him. I mean, we've seen him cook Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Only just now was he able to win against the Clippers, but before, he was absolutely, he was getting buckets on them. So, I can't really say that having a defender on Luka is going to slow him down, because he had Kawhi and Paul George, and he wasn't getting slowed down. It was really the team that was getting slowed down. So, it could really be a toss-up in this series, in my personal opinion. I have this series going to 7 games. In all honesty, I think this is going to 7 games, but on the Celtics side, it's going to go to 6, or maybe even 5. I do not see that series going to 7 games. The Celtics, they need to hand the belt to the Pacers immediately. But that's all I have to say about this 4th segment. So now I will go ahead and go into the 5th segment. Since we were talking about the Denver Nuggets, I might as well go ahead and talk about their chances on running it back. And that's going to be the 5th segment and my opinions on that. And I'll be right back after this short break, so stay tuned. And we are back with the fifth segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this fifth segment, we are going to be talking about the Denver Nuggets and whether or not they should run it back. So, honestly, might as well go ahead and throw in the Knicks there as well. I didn't think I would throw in the Knicks, but if we don't have, or if there is more time, I will talk about whether I think the Knicks should run it back or if, they should just keep it the same. But the Denver Nuggets so far, they went to 7 games, and Jokic and Jamal Murray, they played very well. Like, their numbers were great, but their efficiency was not up to par to what's usually expected from them, if that makes sense. They played great, but one of the big differences in this game was that Jokic was forcing a lot of shot attempts when he usually doesn't force that many shot attempts. So, forcing all of those shot attempts definitely affected their play, and it affected them winning. The game sort of turned into, like, instead of, okay, the Nuggets are just going to keep dominating, to, okay, now we have to make sure that we just keep winning the game. So just make sure you have long possessions and stall. That was sort of what the end game sort of looked like for the Nuggets. And obviously, when you have Jokic playing and shooting the ball like he was shooting the ball, you're not really going to win the game like that. He was forcing a lot of really bad shots, and the defense was also very good on him. Not to mention, Michael Porter Jr. also played relatively poorly in this game. He didn't play well at all. Like, it was not it. I'm sorry to say, it was not it for Michael Porter Jr. in those last few games, in the last stretch, and it costed them. It really did cost them. But do I think they should run it back? Yes. I think they should. Now, I'll give you my reasoning for that. Jesus, I almost dropped that. I apologize. But I'll give you my reasoning for why I think they should run it back. So, this game was decided by defense and a relatively poor performance coming in from Michael Porter Jr., as well as, Jamal and Jokic late in the stretch, just late in the game, because they had a 20-point lead, but that 20-point lead diminished, and they blew that lead. Now, it's the fact that they led. They just needed to hold on to that lead, and they would have won the series. But unfortunately, that's not what happened, and, they were able to rally. And on top of that, Anthony Edwards didn't shoot the ball that well either. It was just a collapse for this Nuggets team. And I have a feeling that it's not going to happen to them in the future. All they have to do is take this, learn from it, and then apply it into next season. I think they still have enough pieces and good enough players to be able to compete again. And all they have to do is just run it back. Because it came down to a Game 7, and they were up by 20 points, and they choked. It's just that simple. It's a choke. And whenever you choke, you can obviously run it back and prevent that choking from happening by learning from your previous mistakes. So, with that in mind, I have a feeling they're going to take this loss and they're going to better from it, and they're going to just be better in the next season and run it back again. Because, having Jokic and Jamal Murray on the roster, you're immediately a championship team in my eyes. And all you really needed in that Game 7 was for Michael Porter Jr. to hit a couple of shots. And if he would have hit a couple of shots, then the game would have definitely panned out a little bit different. So I think they should run it back with the exact same lineup that they have. If they can get other pieces and add on to the already talented roster they have, that would be great, obviously. But I genuinely think they should run it back. Now I might as well go ahead and talk about the Knicks as well. Do I think the Knicks have a good shot of running it back? Do I think they should run it back or not? Me personally, without Julius Randle, They need to get rid of Julius Randle right this instant. I'm not a big fan of Julius Randle. I was never a big fan of him when he was on the Knicks at the first start of his Knick career. He played horribly in his first ever postseason run, and he played just as bad in his second postseason run. I am not a big fan of Julius. I want him off the New York Knicks. What I really do want to see, Bridges on, I want to see Mikal Bridges on the Knicks. I think the Knicks and the Nets should trade and try to move Mikal Bridges to New York, to the Knicks. Because as a Nets fan, I'm not a big fan of Mikal now. I mean, I thought he was going to be the number one option for the team, but it doesn't really look like that's going to be the case. So get him out of here. Get him off the roster. I do not want him. I would love to graciously sacrifice Mikal Bridges so that way he can go play for New York and maybe have a decent chance of winning a title there in New York. Because, quite frankly, I would love to see him with his Villanova brothers again. I mean, Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson, DiVincenzo, and Josh Hart all on the same team yet again. That's just Villanova right there. The Villanova Knicks. I mean, that would be very fun to watch. I would love to watch all four of them be on the same team again. And not to mention the chemistry would be so much better if Mikal Bridges was on the Knicks. I mean, he would have already played with 3 of the players in the starting lineup. And then, not to mention, you add OG, who's also a relatively good defender. He could come off the bench while, for any of those star players that, any of those Villanova players that I just mentioned. And on top of that, Tom Thibodeau would love to have Mikal Bridges, who is willing to play every single NBA game and every single NBA minute that he possibly can get. He is an Iron Man. I mean, he had a time where he played 83 games in the season before, and he didn't miss a single one. He is perfect for Thibs and his rotation ideas. Absolutely perfect. And on top of that, he doesn't get injured as much. As much as Julius Randle gets injured, he knows how to protect, Bridges knows how to protect his body a lot better than Julius Randle. So I think if Mikal Bridges joins the Knicks, it would be a match made in heaven. Now, the biggest problem for them, obviously, would be, who to trade for, to gain, because the Knicks would have to give up a lot of pretty valuable pieces just to get Mikal Bridges. But honestly, since it is the Brooklyn Nets, I wouldn't be surprised if they mess up this trade and, the Knicks get Mikal Bridges for, pocket change or something like that. Would not be surprised if that's the case whatsoever. But I wouldn't mind sacrificing Bridges just for, the chance of a New York team being good. Would not mind that in the slightest whatsoever. And a lot of people, they question, why is it that you like the Nets and you like the Knicks? Aren't they supposed to be rivals? Technically, yes. But none of them are really affiliated with my state, if that makes sense. I mean, the only reason why I am a Nets over Knicks fan is because the Nets used to be New Jersey. So I would rather root for that team than the New York Knicks, even though every other team I root for in every single sport is a New York team, whether it be football, aside from hockey where they actually have a New Jersey team, but whether it be football, whether it be basketball, every single team that I root for is a New York team. And I don't see a problem in rooting for both of them. And granted, obviously, if the Nets are in the playoffs and the Knicks are in the playoffs, I am rooting for the Nets every single day of the week. But if one of them is a little bit more successful than the other, then I'm going to root for the other successful New York team because they're closest to me. And I watch both of their games. I have the ability to watch both of their games from my TV using cable. So that's sort of my reasoning as to why I am a Nets and a Knicks fan. Granted, most of the time I've watched I had to watch the Knicks be absolutely horrible. I mean, they had Carmelo Anthony for a while when I was growing up watching the NBA, but it didn't really pan out that well. And then Kevin Durant and Kyrie came over to Brooklyn, and I was just like, ooh, that looks like fun to watch. So I just kept watching them, kept pulling my hair out, this, that, and the other. And I really liked the position that I was in up until, they decided to trade. I'm still, a vivid Nets fan, regardless of whether or not they're good or they're bad. But it's come playoff time where I decide to root for the New York team. I feel like that makes enough sense. But a lot of people, a lot of weirdos and a lot of fanatics are going to be like, oh, that's weird. Oh, you're not supposed to be a New York team. Nah, 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 nah. This, that, and the other. But it's completely different because it's like they both stink. They're really bad. It's nothing like as much as people want to make it a rivalry, it is not the same rivalry as the Clippers and the Lakers. It's just not the same whatsoever. Like, I don't really get a similar vibe from that. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I don't really get a similar vibe as I get from Lakers going up against Clippers. But that's really all I have to say in this fourth segment. So I think the Nuggets should run it back. The Knicks, on the other hand, I feel like they need to add Mikal Bridges and then they can run it back. I mean, they could try doing it with a healthy team before they try to get Mikal, given how they really had an unfair chance in this playoff series and in the playoffs in general. But I genuinely think that, they need to get Mikal, and if they do get Mikal Bridges, it's game over. So that's all I have for this fifth segment, and that is the end of the show. Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show, leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. And as usual, please remember to use the link in the description to get your comments recognized, or the link displayed below the ticker on every single show segment. It's gsmcpodcast.net. It really helps the show, makes the show much more interactive between myself and you guys. That is all I have for you guys today in this show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am your host, Nelson. And as always, take care.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn it.